Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be taking a closer look at something that I think a lot of you out there are curious about. And that is the new trust score feature on the 𝗧𝗥𝗨𝗡𝗦 decentralized exchange.
Okay.
You know, the score, it's designed to give us like a really quick assessment of how risky a token might be before we actually go and trade it.
Interesting.
We've got some excerpts here from a text that explains how it works, and I gotta be honest, I am pretty curious to see how this thing actually ticks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty cool.
What's under the hood?
Yeah, it's interesting because I know that STON.fi has actually teamed up with DYR.io for this.
Oh, really?
Which is a platform I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Stands for do your own research.
Of course.
A golden rule in the crypto space. But, they're already well known for their research tools, and now they're basically like crunching all this data with these sophisticated algorithms to generate this trust score.
So it's kind of like having like a research assistant pre-screening these tokens for us.
Yeah, kind of.
But what I'm curious about is this mention of algorithms. Like, what exactly are they looking at to figure out how trustworthy a token actually is?
Well, they're looking at a few primary factors.
Okay.
The first one that they're looking at is the trading volume. So, how much a token is actually being bought and sold.
Yeah, so like the activity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, generally speaking, a high volume can be a really good sign.
Right, because then that means there's a lot of interest.
Exactly. It suggests that there's genuine interest.
Real people.
Yeah, and activity, which makes it way harder for, somebody to come in and try to manipulate the market.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm thinking, couldn't somebody with enough resources, they could artificially inflate that trading volume to try and game the system?
Oh, absolutely. You're totally right. That's a very, very crucial point. Volume's a good indicator, but it's definitely not foolproof. These algorithms that they're using are really sophisticated, so they try to actually look for and differentiate between organic trading volume and something that's called wash trading.
Wash trading.
Yeah, so that's where essentially somebody's trading with themselves just to create the illusion of a lot of activity.
Sneaky.
Super sneaky. So yeah, so it's definitely more than just looking at the numbers at face value.
Okay, so there's more nuance there.
Way more nuance.
Okay, so what else are these algorithms looking at?
Okay, so the second thing that they look at is price volatility.
Okay.
So this looks at basically how much the token's price is jumping around.
Up and down, yeah.
Exactly. And high volatility or big price swings can often be a red flag.
Makes sense.
It suggests that the token might be more susceptible to being manipulated or just that there's a general lack of stability in its value.
Yeah. It's kind of like those investments that you see that promise to make you rich overnight. There's a lot of hype. The price goes way up and then it just crashes immediately.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
And then the third factor that they take into account is the minting possibility.
Minting possibility.
Yeah. Basically, can more of the token be created? And if so, how does that mechanism work?
Okay.
And this really gets into the idea of token dilution.
Okay.
So if more tokens can be easily created, it can actually decrease the value of the tokens that already exist.
Right, because now there's more of it.
Exactly. So that's a key thing that they're taking into account.
So if a token has unlimited minting potential, that would be like a big red flag.
It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
There can be legitimate reasons why new tokens would be minted, like, for example, liquidity mining rewards, that can incentivize users to participate in the network.
Right.
Or sometimes tokens are burned or taken out of circulation, which has the opposite effect, and it can actually increase the value of the tokens that remain.
So it's really giving you a very holistic view of the token's risk profile.
Exactly. It's about looking at the whole picture, not just one little piece.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it, I think, really valuable because it's taking all three of these factors into account.
Yeah.
The trading volume, the price volatility, and the minting possibility. The algorithm can create a much more, nuanced assessment than just looking at any one of those things individually.
It's like having this handy guide that just tells you the key risk factors right away.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who's newer to decentralized exchanges, this would be super helpful.
I mean, for sure, it's a great starting point. But, and I cannot stress this enough, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Oh, absolutely.
Even with a high trust score, it's still so important to do your own research on the project, the team behind it, the tokens use case, all of that good stuff.
So this score is a good tool, But it's not a substitute for due diligence.
Exactly. It's about giving users the information to make good choices,
Yeah.
not about telling them what to do. And this actually, leads to a pretty interesting question. Does seeing a trust score actually change how you approach trading on a DEX?
That's a great question.
Yeah, is that your first consideration, or are there other things that are more important to you?
That's a really good question for our listeners to think about.
Yeah.
And for anyone who wants to learn more about this, I highly recommend checking out both the STON.fi platform and 𝗬𝗧𝗢𝗙𝗏𝗧's website.
For sure.
There's so much information out there waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely.